Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're diving into how one single company, on one tiny island, became maybe the most critical and potentially the most dangerous company in the entire world. It's a crazy story that actually starts inside the Pentagon and ends up in pretty much every piece of tech you use.
Okay, let's set the scene. It's October 2016. We're deep inside the Pentagon, where a top-secret meeting is happening between military brass and tech execs. And the topic on the table is so sensitive, it could change everything we think we know about national security. Now, you might think they were talking about some new weapons system or a rival country's latest threat. But nope. What they were discussing was way more fundamental. A single point of failure so critical that it threatened to completely undermine America's military dominance.
And get this, the source of all this worry? It wasn't a country, it was a company. To be specific, the US military realized it was dangerously, almost totally dependent on the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or as you probably know it, TSMC.
So this is where we really get to the heart of the Pentagon's massive problem. You see, the most advanced, most sophisticated US military hardware runs on computer chips that America just doesn't make, and they can't get them from anyone else. And to really get the scale of this, you have to see what's on the line.
I mean, think about the crown jewels of the American military machine, right? The F-35 fighter jets, our spy satellites, massive aircraft carriers, those cutting-edge drones. The brains inside almost all of them, the special custom chips that give them their advantage, are made by TSMC. Without this one company, the most powerful military in the world is, for all intents and purposes, grounded. How on earth did this happen?
To answer that, we've got to rewind the clock. Because the story of TSMC isn't just about a company. It's really the story of a whole nation's deliberate, strategic plan to transform itself from deep poverty into a global tech powerhouse. You have to picture this. Back in the late 1950s, Taiwan was one of the poorest places in Asia. It was a mostly agricultural society, with an average income you could compare to the Congo. But the government made this huge, conscious decision to pivot away from farming and bet the country's entire future on high-tech industry. And wow, did that bet pay off.
And you know, this transformation was no accident. Not at all. It was a meticulous, decades-long plan. When U.S. aid dried up in '65, Taiwan knew it needed a brand new economic engine. So they set up a national tech institute, sent their best and brightest engineers to the U.S. to master semiconductor tech, and then started a huge campaign to lure all that talent back home. And there was one guy in particular they knew they absolutely had to get.
That man was Morris Chang. And this is the guy who didn't just build a company, he fundamentally rewired the entire global semiconductor industry. And by doing that, he basically rewired the modern world.
Chang had built this incredible, legendary career in the United States. He spent 25 years at Texas Instruments, becoming a true giant in the industry. But then, in 1985, he gets a phone call. It's the Prime Minister of Taiwan, and he convinces Chang to leave his life in America and come home with one single epic mission: build a world-class semiconductor industry from the ground up.
Now here's where it gets really smart. When Chang took on this challenge, he didn't just try to copy the big American and Japanese players. No. Instead, he found a fundamental flaw in how the whole chip industry worked, and he built his new company to exploit that flaw.
See, back in the 80s, the chip world was what you'd call integrated. The giants, like Intel, did everything. They designed their own chips, and they built them in their own factories. So if you were a small startup with a brilliant new chip design but no factory, you had to go to your biggest competitor and ask them to make it for you. And guess what often happened? Yeah, they'd steal your design. It was a massive roadblock to innovation.
Chang's idea was just genius. It was so simple. He created what's called a pure play foundry, basically a factory for hire that only makes chips for other companies. TSMC would never ever design its own chips, which meant it would never compete with its customers. That single promise built this incredible foundation of trust that just unleashed a massive wave of innovation from all these new fabless design companies like NVIDIA and Apple.
So with this totally revolutionary model, Chang didn't just create a new company, he created an entirely new market. And TSMC, which was founded in 1987, began this steady, relentless, and honestly, seemingly unstoppable climb to the very top of the industry. And the results of this strategy? Well, they've been absolutely staggering. Today, TSMC doesn't just lead the market. For the most advanced chips, it is the market. It controls 56% of the entire global contract chip manufacturing industry. I mean, all of its competitors combined don't even come close.
They built this incredible lead by just outworking, out-innovating, and outspending everybody else. While the former industry leader, Intel, kind of stumbled, TSMC just perfected its process. Today, they are 2, even 3 full generations ahead of their closest competitors, including China's best foundries. That is a technology gap that could take a decade to close.
And TSMC has zero intention of letting anyone catch up. To keep this lead, the company announced it would spend a staggering $100 billion over just 3 years on R&D and new factories. To put that in perspective, that's more than the entire annual defense budget of most countries on Earth.
So this incredible dominance, it brings us right back to where we started in that secret meeting in the Pentagon. Because TSMC's success isn't just a business story anymore. It has become one of the most critical and explosive geopolitical issues of our time.
This right here is the Pentagon's absolute nightmare scenario. America's most essential military hardware runs on chips designed in the U.S., but they are manufactured on an island that China considers a breakaway province and has repeatedly threatened to take over by force. The world's most important supply chain runs directly through one of its most dangerous flashpoints.
And if you think this is all just theoretical, well, recent events have thrown this vulnerability into the spotlight. You had political pressure from the U.S. that led TSMC to agree to build a factory in Arizona. And then the global chip shortage showed everyone, from car makers to electronics giants, that the entire modern economy pretty much flows through this one company in Taiwan.
Which leaves us with this final kind of wild thought. When Taiwan's prime minister picked up the phone and made that call to Morris Chang back in 1985, do you think he was just hoping to build a successful company? Or could he have possibly imagined that he was setting in motion the creation of arguably the single most important and most vulnerable company on the entire planet?